Hey guys, Chris Zaldain here, and we're talking about fall power fishing.
Yes, sir. Tournament winning fish right there. Fall power fishing at its finest.
In my opinion, you know, our tournament tour ends too soon. You know, a lot of times our tournament season ends in August, sometimes 1st of September. In my opinion, the fall power fishing bite in the South really doesn't kick up until about October 15th, all the way through November and sometimes into December, depending on where you live in the South. Fall fishing can be very, very rewarding. You know, when your neighbor, when your buddy is out there chasing those whitetail, I'm the kind of guy that likes to go out and try to catch 8, 9, and 10-pound fish here in the state of Texas. What I'm going to talk about in this video pertains to that fall feeding bite.
Oh yes, that is a beauty fall fish right there.
You know, I say it all the time when we're talking about the seasons of bass fishing. I like to group spring and fall together, as well as winter and summer together. What I mean by that is in the summer and the winter, the fish share the same deep wintering or summering holes. Oftentimes in the South, that means 15, 20, sometimes 25 feet of water. A lot of times they're slow, lethargic, not biting. And then you take a look at that spring and fall group. They hang out in the exact same spots in the fall as they do in the springtime. Back spawning pockets, pre-spawn areas, those nice 45-degree banks with that nice lay down or rock point or a single dock. Fishing somewhat slow, you know, flipping a jig or flipping a stick worm or something like that. What I like about fall fishing most is fish are actually feeding. Here in a little bit, it's going to be really, really cold depending on where you're at in the South. The fish become lethargic again, but for that good month and a half, 2-month period, these fish go on the feed bag, man. They got to feed up. I could sum up fall power fishing in one word, and that is flats. Fall flats. It could be just a flat point. It could be a long, long, long flat. It could be an island out in the middle of the lake that happens to be flat contoured. Buzzes, FFS, or forward-facing sonar. This can be a very challenging time to fish, but a very, very rewarding time to fish. That's what makes fall power fishing so exciting. All right, I did a little shopping yesterday here at my local Bass Pro Shop store here in Grapevine, Texas. I selected 3 lures that are universal, very powerful, and they get a lot of big bites. What I mean by universal is you can fish them shallow, you can fish them deep, top water. Got it, big one. I just want to go through one by one here the lures I select for fall power fishing. I lean on these things. You hear a lot from the pros, you know, some of the guys who talked on this subject before me, we talk a lot about the threadfin shad. And in the fall, bass love to chase down threadfin shad. A lot of the guys love throwing little poppers, little square bills, spinner baits, buzz baits, that quintessential shad imitator. None of these lures here look like a threadfin shad, and that's by design. I love a Bandido Bug. This is Guggen Bait's Bandido Bug. I picked up a couple bags yesterday. Essentially what we're imitating here is a bluegill, a fall bluegill up there shallow around cover. What I like best about this bait here is the fact that it's so universal in the fact that you can fish it on a jig head, you could throw it under a skirt Texas rig like I have here today, and I'm just flipping it to isolated targets. It looks like a bluegill, looks like a crawdad. This thing attacks fish when they're on those isolated pieces of cover. The beauty of this is you can fish this around those fall grass patches. A lot of the lakes in the South have a lot of, weed growth all throughout the summer. Sunlight penetration is at its greatest all through the summer months. In turn, we get a lot of vegetation growth, and that is an excellent place to look in the fall when we're fishing these creature baits or flipping baits. And I like throwing this time of year with a 3/4 ounce tungsten weight all the way up to an 1.5 ounce weight. So we're either flipping it to holes or we're punching it through canopies. This is an excellent tool for power fishing in the fall.
Oh yeah, that is awesome.
And then moving on here, I will never leave the dock without a frog. I mean, this is just a poppin' style frog. I got a couple of them yesterday, threw a couple in my bag. I'm either gonna throw an all white one, an all black one, or some type of bluegill variation. Earlier this morning, I was hearing bluegill smacking, popping around some of the reed clumps, so I threw a bluegill one here. But I love a popping style frog. This time of year sounds a lot like an old school popper. It's got that nice bloop, bloop, bloop to it. The retrieve of this popping style frog is like so. So instead of a walk, 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 pause, walk, 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 pause, like we do most of the year, in the fall, you cannot beat a chug, 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 and small bloops. So there's bloop, 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 and chugs. The fish feel it, hear it, see it, and it kind of promotes that active feeding noise underneath the surface. Maybe let it hang out in a shade pocket for a little bit longer. Sounds like a lot of fish activity is what that popping face really does for you. Best part about this frog, this lure in the fall, is it gets really, really big bites. There's something about a topwater bite in the fall that when you find that bite in a tournament, guys aren't gonna touch you. Finally here, glide baits, man. Power fishing in the fall, you cannot talk about power fishing with cooling water temps without talking about a glide bait. This one is the XPS Swerve. I know the guy who kind of designed this bait, and I throw a lot of custom glide baits dating back 20 plus years ago, and this one here is one of the most consistent glides available out there. I'll tell you, the biggest way you can tell you've got a really, really good glide bait is when you cast it out there, and when you go to reel in real quick to make another cast, when that thing pulls back on you and it's going like this, and it's staying belly down, back up, absolutely vertical and natural, that's when you know you have a good glide bait.
Got him. Oh my gosh, that thing smoked it. Yes, sir.
This is an injected molded glide bait. I like them in kind of these pearl colors, real natural colors. This is by no means a budget glide bait. This thing gets a lot of bites, and at 6.5, 7 inches tops. And the beautiful thing about the glide bait, as the water temperatures cool, getting really into the fall, the fish, are chasing things and they want a big meal. The good thing about a glide bait is it's versatile. The versatility of a glide bait, you could throw it down the side of that dock, you could throw it over submerged grass, you could throw it out in deeper water, let it fall, and just kind of every half a turn, quarter of a turn at a time, you're pulling that glide bait left to right. Jerk baits work really, really well. Just ask Kevin Van Dam. He has made an absolute living throwing a jerkbait for big smallmouth or big largemouth up on shallow flats as the water temperature's cool. If this is intimidating to you, just think of it as a big jerkbait. What I like to target, again, are flats, but the more wind, the better with glide baiting. We want to fish a little bit of choppier banks. If we have those nice north cold fronts that come through in the fall, I want to fish all the south banks with that wind kind of crashing on those flat points with that little drop, or that flat with a couple of stick-ups or a log on it. Isolated targets. As we pull that thing by there, we're looking for the biggest bite up on that flat possible. And that right there gets it for us.
I love throwing these giant glide baits.
Okay, so what do we look for as far as on a map, or, when we just launched the boat, whether we're fishing a very familiar lake or an unfamiliar lake, what do we look for? Well, we always hear about fishing the backs of the pockets, backs of the creeks in the fall. As those shad migrate to the backs there, they're looking for cooler water, they're looking for water inflow, they're looking for shallower water to spend their nights. The days are getting shorter in the fall, and the fish know that. Anything under the surface knows that, from catfish to threadfin shad to gizzard shad. Everything knows that that sun in the sky is getting lower and lower and lower, and we're seeing less and less of it as the fall season progresses. So that triggers a migration. That triggers the whitetail up on the bank to go into rut and do their thing. Same thing underneath the surface. So we look for back pockets. That's the biggest thing to look for. When you start mixing in back pockets with the flat in the back of it, opposite of the channel like we fished in the spring, that is dynamite. That's how we do's it. I like going with larger than normal baits in the fall because we're looking for the biggest fish up on those flats, the King Kong of that group of fish that decided to pull up. And the only way to do that is by attacking it in a powerful way.
Fall power fishing at its finest. You can't beat a frog. You can't beat a flipping stick with 65 braid. and you can't beat a big glide bait just like that, man.
You could catch a whole lot of fish power fishing in the fall in the South.